Larry Wheels is one of the strongest humans alive, but he has a problem.
I have been spending any and every last bit of extra money that I have come in monthly on campsites.
Not that problem, I'm talking about his curse, or at least the fact that every time someone trains with him, it goes off the rails. As an advanced lifter, Larry tends to only train with other elite athletes who've been training for decades, which begs the question, how do people with so much experience and strength get such devastating injuries? What are some other serious injuries which affect advanced lifters as well as beginners? And why is it that our muscles always seem to grow back stronger when we go to the gym, but that doesn't happen for certain injuries? As a medical student, I've had to study these injuries in a large amount of detail, and if I had to watch some of these gruesome clips, then so do you. So today I'm going to explain some of the most serious gym injuries, ranking them from potentially career-ending to life-ending, and breaking down why they happen, who's at risk, and how to prevent or recover from them. And we're going to start with the most famous instance of the Larry Wheels curse, the pec tear. A few years ago, Larry was training with UK powerlifter Ryan Crowley, who decided to try and match Larry's strength by lifting around 5 plates on the bench press. Things didn't go well, and he was left with one of the worst looking pec tears I've seen. When people say muscle tear, they're often referring to a tear involving the tendon or a tear involving the muscle itself. If muscles are elastic bands, tendons are more like ropes made of braided collagen fibers, anchoring your muscles to your bones. As a more elastic substance, muscles are highly mobile and spread force throughout their structure better, whereas tendons sacrifice this to go all in on strength. The tightly braided structure of tendons also means there isn't much space for blood vessels to run through them, as it would weaken their overall strength, kind of like having spaghetti running through the center of a rope. As such, they have a poor blood supply and adapt slowly, whereas muscles have a rich blood supply and usually remodel themselves quickly to adapt to new stress. Their poor blood supply also means that recovery takes much longer, with a complete muscle tear taking roughly 2 to 4 months to heal, while even a partial tendon tear can take 6 to 9 months, and with a full tear that can take more than a year. So what specifically happened to Ryan Crowley? And I just want to put out a warning because I'm going to show the video. It's pretty hard to watch, but you've been warned.
Let's go. Yeah. Come on, stay with me. Stay with me. Yes. Let's go. Move. I'm here. Got you.
He completely tore his right pec tendon, causing his pec to violently recoil as it detached. This would have caused 3 things: severe pain, complete loss of strength, and severe bruising as the force of the recoiling muscle tore through all of the surrounding blood vessels, causing extensive internal bleeding. Ryan was admitted for surgery roughly within a day of the injury, which is important for ensuring the tendon can still be attached. But despite the surgery, Ryan re-tore his pec a few months later getting dressed, which just goes to show how long tendons take to heal and how they never fully return to normal. Long term, he's always going to be cautious training and his body will never be the same again, but it's important I address the elephant in the room. How old do you think Ryan is? He's 23. This video isn't about steroids, but there's a reason why muscle tears are so much more common among people who abuse steroids. In a normal person, muscular adaptation already slightly outpaces tendons, but you can offset this with warm-ups, rest days, and rotating exercises. In steroid users, their muscles grow so quickly that they end up lifting more than their tendons can really handle, increasing the risk of injury. Overall, I'd put this injury in B tier. It's painful, recovery is long, and you'll never be the same after. But you really need to go out of your way to make it happen, so I can't really rank it as highly as some of the more severe injuries on this list, which can still happen to people who don't abuse steroids. Ryan actually sustained another type of injury in this video, which is a lot more common in natural lifters. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about a much scarier injury which predominantly affects men and pre-workout users, and that's the aortic dissection, or the cutting open of the biggest artery in your body. A key example of this is 28-year-old Luis Flores, who was a nurse and powerlifting hobbyist. On a random winter morning, LF took his usual pre-workout and headed off to the gym. He did his usual warm-up and started adding heavier weight to his squat until he got to about 5 plates. Right after completing the final rep, he came back up but quickly felt a pain start to develop in his chest and a tingling in his right hand. He immediately thought it was the start of a heart attack, but when the paramedics arrived, everything from his blood pressure to his heart rhythm seemed normal, and he went home. In an aortic dissection, blood flows through a small tear in the aorta, peeling the layers apart. Blood in this new cavity doesn't have anywhere to go and usually either pools and clots or flows back into your aorta from another tear further down and froths up your blood as the 2 different bloodstreams collide. This all happens because when you brace during a heavy lift, your blood pressure spikes temporarily. That's why your veins bulge when you lift heavy, but for your arteries, it's like hitting the inside of their lining with a pressure washer of blood. The risk of aortic dissection is also increased by cold weather and by using stimulants like caffeine. This is because both of these things cause your blood pressure to increase, further increasing the strain on the inner lining of your blood vessels. The complications of aortic dissection are severe tearing chest pain, as your largest blood vessel is rapidly peeled apart, potential stroke or renal failure as the frothiness causes clots to form and travel around your body, and loss of blood flow to one side of your body if the blood pools and ends up compressing your blood vessels. Chubby Emu did a great video on this, so if you want to learn more about how Louise was treated, I recommend you watch it. But essentially, Louise made a partial recovery and was left with life-changing injuries.
Right now, I can still go to the gym, I can still work out. I can't lift more than 35 pounds. I drive with my left foot, and I can still do patient care. Life still goes on, and I gotta just adapt with what I can and can't do.
As such, I'm putting this injury in S tier as it can happen spontaneously in gym goers of every level. In fact, there's a documented case where someone got an aortic dissection lifting up a 36-kilogram dumbbell, which is terrifying. It's also easily missed and the potential lethality is high. We've got another S tier injury later on, but before that let's talk about the bicep tear. When you see a bicep tear, it can sometimes be a true tendon tear, but sometimes the tendon can actually be so strong that it pulls a piece of bone off instead, causing what's known as an avulsion fracture. The muscle itself almost never rips. I left out that Ryan Crowley not only tore his tendon, but he also had an avulsion fracture. Avulsion fractures during a bicep tear have a similar recovery timeline to tendon tears, and due to the rich blood supply of bone, it's usually possible to return to near normal strength unlike a tendon tear. But that being said, it's so much easier to tear your bicep as it's a comparatively small muscle with a smaller tendon, and you can do it lifting anything with your bicep while it's fully stretched and in its most vulnerable position, like a preacher curl, a mixed grip deadlift, or even catching something heavy while it's falling. So because of how much easier it is to cause a bicep tear and how we use our arms for everything, I have to put this in A tier above the pec tear. The last two conditions are kind of related in the main structure that they affect, but I'll start with the less severe, more common one first, the disc herniation. As someone who's 6'5", this is the bane of my existence, and chances are you've probably experienced back pain at some point too. Between each of your vertebrae you have a disc, which is basically like a jam-filled donut. The outer donut is the annulus fibrosus, the fibrous protective layer. The jam is the nucleus pulposus, the pulpy gel which acts as a shock absorber. When you bend over and round your back repeatedly, the outer donut starts to wear down and can bulge out or allow the gel to leak out, which is what happens in a herniation. This can be caused from poor form in the gym as well as sitting for too long, especially with your back rounded, causing pain through the compression of surrounding nerves when the disc bulges, or direct irritation if the gel from your disc leaks onto your nerves. For some, their pain can be improved by either removing the disc entirely and losing some mobility and strength, or by strengthening the muscles surrounding your back in the gym without further compressing the disc, reducing the pressure on your back in the long run and allowing it to make a partial recovery. I've been doing my best over the last few months and I've personally noticed a significant difference with exercises alone, which is why I'm putting it in C tier. And now we're going to get to the final injury, and it's really sad, and that's the cervical spine fracture. A key example of this injury for me is Yashtika Acharya, a 17-year-old gold medalist powerlifter who unfortunately lost her life when she went for a 600-pound squat PR, lost her balance, and the weight rolled forwards onto her neck, severing her spinal cord and killing her instantly. Fitness YouTuber Greg Doucette put it perfectly.
Who do you think is going to win? 600 pounds versus a 17-year-old female's neck? She had no chance.
Stories like this serve as a grim reminder for how fragile our lives can be, even for award-winning athletes, and how important it is to avoid putting yourself in situations where you can get hurt. And that means doing more reps of a lower weight to make sure that when you do finally increase the weight, you've earned it, or at least emphasizing safety over ego if you decide to push yourself. And lastly, choosing the right training discipline that aligns with your goals, and we'll talk about that in the next video. So stay safe and make today count.